When we think of people who use animals for their own sick pleasures, our minds recall back to those like hypnotist Sappho, who continues to exist without police intervention to this day. We think about Kira the wolf, exposed in leaks to do some of the most disgusting things to dogs. Or we think about Snake Thing, an accomplice to Kira partaking in all of the same activities and sometimes worse. These are some of the most deprived individuals on this earth, exactly the type of people we think of. As the clock ticks on, we encounter more and more of these stories. Now in the year 2023, emerging from the depths of the fandom, we find another disgusting story. This story revolves around two individuals, Teriyaki and their partner AcidRainCloud, skilled enough to travel between conventions and dance during contests. Scene pictured here is Teriyaki dancing at AnthroCon 2019. This particular performance is important to me as it was my first time discovering fursuiting as an enjoyable activity. Through platforms such as Twitter and YouTube, the pair have uploaded fursuiting dance content. That is despite the point, however, as this individual alongside their partner were recently revealed to partake in acts with fish. Yes, you heard me correctly, fish. The fish would be used as a sort of toy between them. Exactly how this is done is explained through a leaked text conversation between AcidRainCloud and a friend of theirs. In this conversation, they would explain how they would insert or ingest fish during intercourse. This would provide the pair with pleasure similarly to vor, the idea of having a living being contained inside of you. Note that these fish were alive. That's so that there was a squirming sensation as the fish struggled to survive. This was described by Rain as, quote, quite harsh to the fish, but kind of amazing. A little harsh would be what many would call an understatement. They were not just dumb fish who went for a little bit of a ride. Many of the fish would perish during this activity. As noted by Rain, they usually don't survive that part, unfortunately. I pushed them out into a fishbowl, and if any survive, they get put back in a tank and we'll use them again later. From that, the story turns from zoophilia to zoosadism, the practice of deriving pleasure from inflicting harm onto animals. That term will be familiar to you if you remember the story about Kira the wolf and Snake Thing. In my view, I'm not sure if this is classed as the same kind of zoosadism as Kira the wolf. People like Kira the wolf and Snake Thing derive their pleasure from physically injuring the animal with intent to cause harm. The pleasure Teriyaki and Rain receive more came from the feeling of squirming or the ideas of vor, not actually inflicting the harm or killing the fish. The pain on the animals came as a byproduct of what they used the animals for. As Rain says, the fish dying was unfortunate. This more seemed to me like a disgusting and total lack of empathy for the lives of animals. The fish being injured or dying was secondary to them just being used as toys. However, I'm obviously not saying this as any excuse. If anything, this makes the actions more disturbing. The utter lack of care for life to treat animals in such a way must be a reflection of lacking empathy. To use fish in such a manner, a living creature with a conscience, then being able to justify such an action is beyond abhorrent, and it disgusts me deeply. The unlucky fish who did survive the incident were kept back in their tanks for later dates, just to repeat the process again, cycling through until they have had their last go, being until they inevitably pass away from what they are being subjected to. This would have to reflect a serious lack of empathy in a way that you couldn't apologize your way out of. That doesn't stop the two accused, however, as both would private all their social media accounts and release statements that are strikingly similar to each other. So similar they appear to be direct copy-paste tweets from one another, with minor alterations to the text, such as changing the word beyond to so, the word locked to restricted, but the most notable parts of these statements are them pleading innocence and claiming to be preparing a full statement soon. They also threaten legal action, presumably towards the original poster and the source of the information. If I were to give my own opinion for a moment, this isn't going to go anywhere. Threatening legal action is a hollow and empty threat, often just used to scare the person into keeping silent. It also gives the accused an excuse to not respond, something along the lines of, I can't comment due to an ongoing legal case. For this reason, we often see people avoid responsibility by throwing the word legal around. If either Teriyaki or Acid were to respond to this situation, simply based on the evidence, it would be incredibly hard for a response to sway public opinion. No No amount of apology could change the actions that they have done, the abuse they inflicted on animals without any care for their life. Instead, if they were to respond, they may take the route of attacking the recipient of these messages, the friend who was first told this information that they would later share to the Twitter user that posted it. Why would they be questioned? Well, equally, as these messages were shared across Twitter, curious users began to point out holes in the story. These holes spawned suspicion that the friend was complacent with Teriyaki and Rain doing these acts. The most talked about aspect was due to the timing of these messages. Rain told the friend in the story through these messages all the way back in 2017, after which the friend would continue to interact with the couple. This means that the story was kept under wraps for 6 years. It was also identified that this sticker was sent in response to Rain's message, that of a blushing hyena. It's debated online whether this blushing is indicative of interest or shock. Based on the expression, in my view, it's uncomfortable shock. To call it interest would be a stretch. I am not denying that it is a very weird reaction and does warrant questions. Those questions would be asked to the person who posted it to Twitter. The actual identity of the friend in these messages was kept anonymous, so it was the poster that was questioned about the sticker. When asked about the sticker, someone would say, "No hate to your partner, but the blushing sticker after what they said was very odd. I know a lot of people have mentioned it, but I've gone through the replies and I'm just wondering if this was something that was also addressed." This would then garner the response, "It was not an appropriate way to react to it, but it was not an acute way. More like a, I don't know how to respond to a friend of many years telling me this." Again, you are allowed your own opinion on this. To me, I wouldn't take it too seriously or jump to any conclusions. To challenge the 6-year silence argument, I personally don't see it. I think many argue this point in relation to complacency, which is something I'll address in a second, but the argument on its own to me is a bit ignorant. I don't think a lot of people understand just how hard coming out about this sort of thing can be. There are so many factors that go into making a decision to come out about serious stuff like this. A large one is holding a close bond with the person. You may be in fear of losing that friendship or the mutual friends you share with that person. It may be an irrational fear, but it can still be immense. This isn't helped by the poster exclaiming that Teriyaki and Rain were occasionally difficult. Please stop the "your partner needed to come out sooner." That friendship was so toxic and manipulative. For a long time they held on to it and were afraid to tell other people, and kept the friendship so Rain wouldn't get mad at them for leaving or talk badly about them. A statement that was added to by screenshot showing the ways in which both Acid and Teriyaki would speak to people. A few other users would also share experiences, claiming that Rain was difficult or an aggressive person. All is to say, I don't think it's fair to focus on the 6 years argument. I don't believe it recognizes difficulties in coming out, or does well to encourage future victims to share their experiences no matter how long ago it was. This wasn't someone who suddenly decided to come out about this, it was their partner who found out and posted about it the following day. What I do believe is a valid argument is the complacency side. That is, the friend who received this message did not like what Teriyaki and Rain were doing, but were okay with ignoring it. I am not just speculating here. As the messages go on, the friend would say this: "The dog has been called out." Well, I myself would not have been into something like that. Having grown up with fish being a commonplace family pet with the pond and whatnot, I just would not be comfortable having them in that scenario, or the possibility of them being injured or worse. That is just me though. I am an emotional twit, so that's a biased opinion. Whilst the poster would attempt to damage control by saying they were still processing the information, that doesn't fully excuse such a response. It is sucking up to this couple's behavior and not taking it serious. It's not whether you enjoy the activity or not, it is zoo sadism. There is no excuse. From what the poster claims, if we were to take them with 100% truth, this person regrets their reaction, and is ashamed that they didn't do anything. There is absolutely nothing to say that they themselves were into the same activities, unlike what a lot of Twitter comments wanted to believe. There is enough to say that they were complacent. On the off chance that Teriyaki or Rain were to respond, I don't doubt that they would try and capitalize on this, scapegoating their behaviors. As it stands, the friend's reaction was gross, it was spineless, and it is disappointing. However, it appears they themselves know that. They are aware they handled it horrifically, and hopefully hold a completely different view on the situation. What's more important is Teriyaki and Rain. There is no discussion to be had about their actions. They are terrible people without care for life, and the world now knows that. The internet is aware of what they did, and oh boy did they express their opinion. Often seen succeeding furry drama is masses of people giving their 2 cents on how this reflects furries as a whole. before. Tweets, videos, YouTube comments, furries chiming in to comment how they interpret the event. We saw examples of this as a result of what occurred between Teriyaki and Acid, admittingly not in substantial volume, about the same as every other furry drama. And of course, I would be incredibly hypocritical to call this wrong in any way. That's not what I'm leading into. What's interesting to me is what furries are saying in these comments. Comments along the lines of, the furry fandom is in disrepair. This is why furries cannot be accepted. Not surprised. This is furries we're talking about. All of which share a connecting theme of the furry fandom and its occupants having a root issue that is either causing these events to happen or a higher prevalence of these events within the fandom. I'll spare you a full breakdown of furry statistics and zoo populations in comparison to general populations. As I've done this before and don't wish to repeat myself, I'm sure that at a future stage I'll bring up this topic in further detail. Right now I want to focus on the wording of these comments. The practice of isolating furries in discussion of these tragic events. Why is it that when we see cases such as this, do we boil them down into just another furry doing something disgusting? When something like this happens, it's for some reason seen as representative of the entire furry fandom. It brings shame to furries and identifying as furries, just because one of us did something disgusting. If the person saying these things were against furries in some sort of way, and they were attempting to portray all furries under this definition, I would expect such reactionary and generalizing behavior. Although I'm not just seeing these statements be made by anti-furries, they are made by furries themselves. In the very beginning of this video, I gave a statement that sounded exactly like these comments, talking about how we found another furry in the fandom and then tying that to other examples. Yet it fit right in, likely unbeknownst to most of you watching. It sounded so effortless to begin a video that way. For no particular reason, I could single out an entire fandom of people in the intro to a video on a furry-owned channel, and it sounded natural. Why we have such a complacency to extreme generalizations, I'm not sure, especially ones that affect us so negatively. The internet has a habit of boiling down a serious situation into, a furry did something bad. I've been guilty of this myself, but even still I've seen people take that quality and then apply it to the entire furry fandom. I want to make this abundantly clear. I understand my content has an overrepresentation of drama, and when I create judgmental content, I run the risk of creating a judgmental audience. So to counteract this, I try to repeat this mantra of furry support. I don't want you guys to leave with a nihilistic view of the fandom, to think that these two individuals are representative of millions of people. That is ridiculous. I do not support these blanket statements. All furries and furry fandom comments. It feels like outsider furry hate has permeated into furries themselves, leading to paranoia and holding a perfect image that all furries must uphold. That way general society will not get any bad impressions. That's stupid, because there are disgusting furries. Not because furries are disgusting, but because people are disgusting. You're not going to change that reality. Good luck fixing society all by yourself. Maybe if you truly want furries to be accepted, stop generalizing them based on the worst examples. Otherwise you're helping nobody. At least make my view clear that when generalizing any group of people, you should be doing it with extreme caution. Every single group. With that being said, I have a Discord server linked in the description. Other than that, check out my other social media accounts such as my Instagram and my Blue Sky. I got a Blue Sky account since my last video, so make sure to go follow me there. You can follow my Twitter. I might be trying to transition to Blue Sky more. I'm gonna try it out more, so we'll see what happens. For now, you can follow both and see how things go down. But for now, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you losers next time. Peace.